Welcome to Data Unboring. Today, we are going to de-boringify A/B testing. In the last video, we learned all about the fundamentals of A/B testing. So you probably have the basics of your test down, and now you're just crossing your fingers and hoping to get some significant results from your test so that you can finally get that promotion you've been waiting for. I'm here to help. So I synthesized 6 golden rules to help you maximize the power of your test. The power of your test, also known as the statistical significance, depends on 4 factors: how you split your sample, your success metric, your sample size, and the expected uplift. Oh, by the way, this is a really popular interview question. I was asked this question when I was interviewing with Google, and back then I was all like, oh, I assume there is an equation you can use to plug everything in, and that should tell you everything. But in the end, they gave me an offer, so I guess that answer was good enough. But for you, if you want that job, better be safe than sorry. So keep on watching. In this video, we're going to be discussing the first 3 factors, and we'll talk about expected uplift in a different video. First, let's look at how you should be splitting your sample. Rule number 1, split your tests on control groups 50-50. The reason for this is behind these awesome equations, which I'll go over in a different video. But for now, just know that the power is dependent on the noise level, and the noise level is dominated by the smaller group. I have a question. How is 50-50 better than 80-20 or 90-10? Isn't it a lot better if I launch to 80 or 90% of the sample? That's what I thought too when I first started doing tests. But that's not how things work. The power of your test is dependent on the size of the smallest group, not the biggest group. The bigger your small group, the higher the power. In this case, if you're doing a 90-10 split, it's really the 10% that's controlling the power, not the 90%. Oh, I know then. Why don't we do a 10-90 test instead of 90-10? Make the test group 10% and the control group 90%. Remember, it's still the smallest group that determines the power. Here, 10% is the smallest group, even though it's the test group, so the 90% control group is quite irrelevant. At the end of the day, whether you're doing 30-70 or 60-40, nothing is going to beat a 50-50 split. 50-50 always yields the biggest small group possible. So whenever possible, just do this 50-50 even split. It's the easiest way to maximize your power. Rule number 2, do an A versus B test instead of an A, B, C, D, E, F test. So hopefully this is pretty intuitive because the more you split your sample, the smaller the groups are going to get and the lower the power you're going to have. That concluded our discussion on sample split. Now let's take a look at success metrics. Rule number 3, choose a binary or categorical success metric whenever possible, instead of a continuous outcome success metric. When we think about binary, you can probably remember in the movie Matrix, all the zeros and ones constantly raining down in the background. Binary success metric is a very similar concept. Let's take a look at this example. Did the user make a purchase on the website? Yes or no? There's only 2 answers and 2 possible outcomes. Therefore, it's called a binary success metric. Next, let's take a look at categorical outcome. How many purchases did the user make? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 2 plus items? In this case, there are 3 possible outcomes, 3 possible categories. For a categorical outcome metric, you can have anywhere between 2, 3, 5, 1,000, really any number of categories that you want. It's worth noting that a binary success metric really is just a type of categorical variable where the number of categories is 2. Now let's take a look at continuous outcome. How much did the user spend on the website? Is it 0? They didn't spend anything? It could be $1.30. It could be $2,000. Or if the user actually returned something on the site, the revenue could very well be negative. So basically, continuous outcomes can range anywhere between negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, so I get that binary has 2 categories. Categorical has a bunch of categories. Continuous can be anything between negative infinity to positive infinity. But then why do we prefer binary and categorical over continuous? Is there something wrong with continuous variables? Well, there's really nothing wrong with continuous. It's just that binary or categorical outcome variables tend to have lower noise levels than continuous variables. Lower noises yield higher power. Rule number 4, choose the success metric most directly impacted by your test. And let's take a look at a case study. An e-commerce store wants to send out an email right before Black Friday to drive sales. They wanted to do an A/B test on the subject line, testing a long version versus a shorter version while keeping the email body consistent across the long and short. And they hypothesized that different subject line length will yield different sales results, and setting the success metric to be sales. I see a problem here because they're testing the subject line which impacts opens and might not impact sales. That's an excellent point. And now let's take a closer look at the user journey. So the user finds your email and they open it, click on the call to action, go to your website, and hopefully makes a purchase. You can see here from our subject line test, it's really directly impacting the opening of the email. And everything down the funnel, the clicks, the browses, and the purchases will become noisier and noisier and harder to measure. So our initial hypothesis that the subject line is going to impact purchase right away is a little bit problematic. So we can modify the hypothesis though to be different subject lines will yield different open rates, thereby driving different sales results down the purchase funnel. And here, we're making the success metric primarily to be open rates and secondarily be sales. So that was all about success metrics. Now let's move on to sample size. Rule number 5, expand your target audience. Going into this example right away. You want to target an audience in Australia, and you're concerned about the power of the test. An easy solution is to add on another country very similar to Australia, like Canada or New Zealand, or if you have access to the USA, that's even better. Expanding regionally is one of the easiest ways to expand your sample size, giving you more power. Rule number 6, run your test continuously over time. Hopefully this is a pretty intuitive one as well. So let's take a quick look at an example. If someone is testing a blue versus red button on their website, the longer they run this test for, the more visitors they're going to get, the higher the sample size, giving them higher power. So if you can, just run your test a little bit longer than you would and see what happens. Don't run your test forever though. At some point, you have to make a call that this test is simply inconclusive. And that's a video for a different time. So there you go, the 6 rules to help you maximize the power of your test. I hope you enjoyed learning. In the next video, I'm going to be going over post A/B test analysis. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching.